thoughtful. They maintain that the Michelson-Morley experiment proved the absence of ether. The simple fact is, and which anybody can check, but most people do not, that the Michelson-Morley experiment was performed to discriminate between two ether theories. One was the theory of Fresnel, the other was the theory of Stokes. And the Stokes theory involved a mathematical absurdity, but the experiment came out in favor of the theory. And therefore, Lorentz rejected it because he said you cannot have a mathematical absurdity even if experiment supports it. And the whole myth of the Michelson-Morley experiment obscures the key point of relativity, which is that Newtonian physics never defined a proper clock. Therefore, it is impossible for the experiment to have measured the speed of light, or for that matter, the speed of anything else. Why Newtonian physics never defined a proper clock is a separate story. I won't go into that here. I have gone into it elsewhere. I won't talk about it here. If you follow Poincaré's line of thought from 1898 to 1904, this point about the need to define a physical measure of time comes out with great clarity. Authoritative sources would tell us that Poincaré believed in ether or that he waffled. However, those are plain falsehoods, as anyone can check by reading Poincaré or even reading the extensive quotes from him that I have provided in my books. It was Poincaré who coined the phrases principle of relativity and Lorentz transform. In a celebrated 1904 paper, he spoke of an entirely new mechanics which would be, above all, characterized by this fact that no velocity could surpass that of light any more than any temperature can fall below absolute zero, unquote. So that's the theory of relativity in a nutshell. Could Einstein have arrived at that theory independently? Such claims of independent rediscovery, just when a dependent discovery was possible, they are a scandalous part of present-day history of science. It is, however, let's look at Einstein's case on its individual merits. It's well known that Einstein had read Poincaré's work on relativity from 1898 until 1902 with great excitement, and he had discussed it with his friends. So the only question is whether he had read Lorentz's 1904 paper, Poincaré's 1904 paper, and he denied reading this. However, as Whittaker first pointed out, Poincaré used the word relativity for the first time in his 1904 paper. He had earlier used the term principle of relative motion in the 1902 book. And since Einstein's paper contained no new idea or formula and repeated that word, therefore Whittaker concluded that Einstein had borrowed his ideas. This was way back. He wrote the biography of Einstein in the Proceedings of the Royal Society. So I further pointed out along the same lines that Einstein casually used the strange terms longitudinal mass and transverse mass, introduced very circumspectly by Lorentz in the very paper Einstein later denied reading. Whittaker's arguments and mine have been met with great hostility by those in scientific authority, though no one has so far actually addressed the points that were raised. So cases where one student copies from another but denies it are commonplace for a teacher. So the simple way to resolve such cases is to test the understanding of the student by administering a verbal test. So we cannot thus interrogate the past, but mistakes are proof of lack of understanding. If a person claiming independent rediscovery shows lack of understanding through a mistake, that is proof of copying according to my epistemic test. And this is exactly what happened in this case. Einstein failed to understand what Poincaré, the mathematician, understood, namely that relativity changes also the character of the equations of physics. They can no longer be ordinary differential equations of Newtonian physics, but must be functional differential equations